Hey guys, it's me, Selena with Selena Thinking Out Loud, bringing you another Storytime Sunday, Time with God. And this week I really wanted to talk about the bravery of Esther. Now, Esther has this kind of rags to riches type story because she was raised by Mordecai, which is really her cousin, but he took her in as his own daughter and raised her up to be strong and humble and beautiful in God and everything like that. And so when the King Xerxes, needed a new wife, he seeked out all the women in the land. And so Mordecai wanted his daughter, Esther, to be in the lineup. And so all the girls that are going to be brought in front of the king, they have to go through a beauty regimen. And so in Esther chapter 2, verse 12, we see here, before a girl turn came to see King Xerxes, she had to complete 12 months of beauty cosmetics, of beauty treatments. So she had to do 6 months of oil and myrrh. She had to do 6 months with perfumes and cosmetics. And so some of the things that we talk about on YouTube here, like makeup application and creams and moisturizers and things like this, Esther and all these other girls had to go through that for 12 months straight. And in my notes here, you see they had to do ritual cleansings, plucking of the eyebrows, removal of body hair. They had to paint their hands and feet with henna. They also had to apply mixtures of paste to lighten their skin and remove blemishes. They also painted their faces with makeup and perfumed their bodies. So can you imagine all of that stuff that we talk about every day on YouTube? They had to go through this committedly for 12 months before even seeing the king. So Esther goes in front of the king, and the king he is so attracted to her that he chose her to be his new queen. And Esther was a really humbled queen. She wasn't really loudmouthed or picky or had many demands. And I believe that's why King Xerxes loved her so much, is because she went with the flow. She was a lady, she was classy. And so what makes this even more interesting is Mordecai told Esther to hide who she truly was, to hide her identity as a Jew, and to go in this and keep her mouth closed, be humbled, and follow instructions and do what she needed to do, which led her to the favor of the king. But what was going on in the background is what makes Esther even more of a memorable figure in the Bible, is because there was a conspiracy going on in the background with Prince Haman, who was among the king's favorites in the court. And so one day Haman was outside of the gate, and when he was put into a new level of status by the king, when he goes out into the court, Mordecai refused to kneel for him and give him that type of respect. And so Haman gets mad and says, okay, I'm going to fix Mordecai. I'm going to kill all of his family, and I'm going to kill all of the Jewish people that's associated with him, and anybody else that's associated as a Jew. And so what happens is, by him doing that, Mordecai sends word to Esther, who's actually in the kingdom, that this conspiracy is going to happen. And we find out this in Esther chapter 4, verses 7, where Mordecai says he told him, the messenger, everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money Haman has promised to pay with the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show to Esther and to explain to her. And he told him to urge her to go before the king, to tell him to plead for mercy for her people. And so Esther hears this and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. She's at a dilemma because she hasn't seen King Xerxes in 30 days. And everybody knows in the court, as we continue to read, all the king's officials and the people know that if you try to come before the king and he doesn't summons you to him, that you're put to death right then and there, unless he extends his golden scepter towards you. And so Queen Esther is nervous. She's scared. She doesn't know. She's new on the scene. She doesn't know what to do, but her people are about to be destroyed by this Prince Haman who's right in the kingdom with her. So what does she do? What would you do? So what she does was she goes back and she tells Mordecai, I don't know what to do. And Mordecai says, well, if you don't do something, God will do something anyway. His will be done. But I just want you to think about that. So what Queen Esther does, which makes it so amazing, is that she goes and she steps back and she says, let's do this all together. Let's get on one accord. And what she does is in chapter 4, verse 15, a little down way, she says, do not eat or drink for 3 days or nights. She wants everybody in the court, her and her maids, and everybody in Mordecai's in the community, the Jewish community, everybody will fast for 3 days. And she says, and then when this is done, she will go to the king, even though it's against the law. Can you imagine having to risk your life for the people that you love, knowing that the king could strike you dead right then and there for breaking his laws? But you have to be brave and trust God to know that he's going to be with you through the thick and the thin. And so she says, and if I perish because I'm going to stand up for what I believe in. I'm going to stand up for my people. The next day, Esther goes before the king, right? And that's in chapter 5, starting at verse 3. And it says here, then the king asked, what is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half of the kingdom, it will be given to you. If it pleases the king, Esther replies, let the king together with Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for him. Bring Haman at once, the king said, so that we may go as Esther seeks, as she wants us to do, to this banquet. So the king and Haman went to the banquet and that Esther had prepared. Now, the king says, okay, we're at the banquet. Let me know what it is you want or you seek, Esther. You know, he loves her so much. And so Esther replies in verse 7, Esther replied, my petition and my request is this. If the king regards me with favor, and if it pleases him, grant me my petition and fulfill my request. And she says, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to another banquet I will prepare for them. Then I will answer the king's question. So as we see in the backdrop, Haman was planning to hang Mordecai and all of the Jews. So he had already rigged up everything. All these stakes and everything was already rigged up and ready to go. So he went to the banquet. And so we're in chapter 7 here, where it says here, so the king and Haman went to dine with Queen Esther. And as they were drinking wine on that second day, the king asked again, what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be granted. Verse 3, he says, the Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor with you, O king, and if it pleases your majesty, grant me my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold for destruction and slaughter and annihilation. If we had merely been sold as males and females as slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would have justified disturbing the king. King Xerxes asked Queen Esther, who is he? What is wrong? Where is the man who has dared to do such a thing to your people? Right? And verse 6, Esther says, the adversary and enemy is this vile Haman. So Haman is shocked. He's sitting there at the table. He's shocked. And he's like, oh, no, that's not so, king. That's not, I'm sorry. So he races to Queen Esther to plead her forgiveness for trying to kill Mordecai, her people and family and everybody. And so the king sees this and he's like, oh, are you going to try to harm my queen right in my presence? So they take him out, drag him out, and they hang him on the stakes, one of the stakes that he was going to use for Mordecai, his family, and for all of the other Jews. So in that regard, the queen saves her people. Queen Esther saves her people. She stands up to the fact of she stands up to the king who she is, still trying to get to know. But she stands up for her people, even though he could have striked her dead right then and there after she said and she came out and identified herself as a Jew, as one of her own people being destroyed. And the king loved her so much that he was willing to kill this man who was about to destroy her people because he loved her so much. So sometimes when we're in adversity or we feel like an obstacle is so big for us as women and we feel like, will they really even see us? Will they even take us seriously? We must stand up and always be brave and know that God has our back in everything that we must do as mothers, as business women, as entrepreneurs, as caregivers, as child care providers, to let us know that God has our back and he loves us and he will protect us in everything that we must do. So with that being said, the question for this week that really got me going is, have you ever been in a situation when the odds were against you as a woman? But what did you do to overcome that obstacle and end up on top? What did you do? Leave that comment in below this video for this week as we discovered more about the bravery of Esther. I thank you so much for joining me for another Storytime Sunday. I look forward to talking with you soon on the next Storytime Sunday. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want more of these Storytime Sundays and other videos that I bring throughout the week, you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to talking with you soon, and I love you so much. Bye.